happy to invite you. We're so happy to have Century Solutions Group, which is an accredited business with our BBB, to just let you know how to, make sure that your business is fortified against all these cyber threats. Not sure if you saw a couple weeks ago in Las Vegas, all the hotels, all the Las Vegas Strip was hacked, and it just shuts Las Vegas down. So we're hoping that this information can help you prevent, or even, make you aware of some of the things that these scammers are doing to hack your information, your personal information, your customers' personal information. So I really hope that you take this information and it's useful to you and your business. So I'm going to give it to Paul.
Hey, thank you, Simone and Kimber. My name is Paul Zetto. I'm with Century Solutions Group. Century Solutions Group is a managed service IT provider here in the Atlanta area. And we've been in business since 1996. We serve most of the metro Atlanta area, but we really do cover the entire state of Georgia. We've been an accredited member with the BBB pretty much since we started business. And just an FYI, we are actually the IT service provider for the BBB of Atlanta and Northeast Georgia, and we love partnering with them, and we appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys. So today's presentation is titled Fortifying Your Small Business Against Cyber Threats. And I'm going to give you all start a quote. This is from Robert Mueller. He was the former director of the FBI. Basically, he says, there are only two types of companies: those that have been hacked and those that will be hacked. First off, I'm going to start with a quiz, and the first person to get the right answer will get a $20 Amazon gift card. So Kimber, if you can keep track of whoever answers correctly first. According to the FBI's Internet Crime Report, how much was lost in 2022 due to cybercrime? First choice is 20 billion. Second answer is 10 billion. Third answer is 3 billion. And the fourth answer is $50,000. So I'll give you all a few, maybe a minute just to answer. Kimber, if you can see whoever gets the answers in.
Watching. Pam Bryant. She guessed correctly.
Yes.
So
great job,
Pam is
Pam.
the winner. Yes.
Yes, and the answer is $10 billion. Great job, Pam. Also in that report, the FBI details that more than 800,000 cybercrime-related reports or cyber-related crimes and complaints were filed in 2022, and they expect it to keep increasing for 2023. Now in 2022, small businesses accounted for 43% of all cyber attacks. 55% of ransomware hit businesses with less than 100 employees. And an average cost was about $25,000 lost per event. 95% of these cyber attacks are attributed to human error. And we'll get into some of those errors and some of those situations in a little bit. Now, what can we do? Like we said on the first page with the quote from former Director Mueller, accept our threat as a reality, not an if, but when. We hope to understand cyber criminals' motivation and techniques, identify vulnerabilities and how they're exploited, and develop a call to action plan to implement cybersecurity measures, specifically training around cybersecurity. Now, today we're going to walk through the background of cyber criminals and crime, common vulnerabilities, protecting your business, and then we'll end with a few key takeaways, basically a wrap up. Now, one, the background of cybercrime. We're going to go through definitions, motivation, techniques, and examples, how this all started and how it impacts you guys. Now, here's an obvious definition: is a cyber criminal is a person who engages in illegal activities that involves computers, networks, or other digital devices. They use this technology to commit various types of crimes, such as theft, fraud, extortion, identity theft, hacking, and malware attacks. And the instruments of these cyber criminals, the leading instrument is a hacker. This is someone who was skilled at computer programming, had a deep understanding of computer systems. And as computers became more connected with the internet, hackers began to use their skills for illegal activities. Now, what motivates cyber criminals? There are three key motivators. I think the first one is probably going to pertain to us more than the other ones. The first one is financial gain. The second one is political or ideological objectives. And the third is just thrill seeking. Now, for financial gain, cyber criminals may steal financial information such as credit card information, login credentials, personal information, and they use it to make fraudulent purchases, commit identity theft, or worse, they'll steal that stolen data on the dark web. This one I don't think really impacts us a lot. This is more based at the government level, but some cyber criminals are motivated by political or ideological objectives, and attackers may target government agencies, political organizations, or businesses that they perceive as opposing their belief system, their agenda. Some, unfortunately, don't even have a financial or an ideological bent. They just do it just to do it. They're motivated just by thrill seeking, and they just enjoy the challenge and the excitement of hacking. And I'll show you this guy in the next slide. This guy here was Robert Morris. He was a graduate student, and back in 1989, he created what was called the Morris worm, which is a virus and a worm that infiltrated people's computer systems and shut them down. But his motivation was just to see if he could do it. And this actually resulted in the first felony conviction in the U.S. under the 1986 Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Now, here's some of the techniques used by cyber criminals, and these are some of the most common ones that affect small business and even medium and large businesses. The first one is social engineering. They use social engineering techniques cyber criminals use social engineering techniques. They manipulate employees into revealing sensitive information about themselves, about their companies, and it allows people to take unauthorized actions. And probably the most common social engineering tactic, which really impacts small businesses really the most, is phishing. I'm sure everyone here on this call has been impacted by phishing. That's basically when you use emails, and you can use text and phone calls to use emails to trick employees into clicking on malicious links or downloading malware. These phishing emails can be designated to look like legitimate emails from trusted sources, and they make them difficult to identify. Here's an example of a phishing one. This is one actually that I got, and the address was it@centurygroup.net, my own company, and basically talked about that we'd received a bunch of phishing reports, and we'd had a phishing quiz, and they asked us to click on the link to make sure we can take the quiz again. And so it's a little intuitive in a sense that we are an IT company. So you see it says it@centurygroup.net. And so I think a lot of people, what motivates people when they click on these type of links for phishing is fear, particularly if it's something around their job or something they may be worried about, something in their job, and even further, something in their personal life. But here's an example of phishing. And the malware is a technique where they access your network to gain access to sensitive information and carry out malicious activities. I'm going to hold this up here. This is a thumb drive. This is one way that malware can be installed on your computers. People can actually take a thumb drive, drop it right into your laptop or your desktop, and they can install a virus and the malware on your computer. And ransomware is a type of malware, and you guys are familiar with this. This is where cyber criminals get onto your computer and they actually lock you out of your computer. They encrypt your files and they demand payment in exchange for the decryption key, and basically shut you down until you pay a ransom. And here's an example of what a ransomware looks like. On this one, they actually got a message that says they've been infected. And you have X amount of days. You had 2 days to pay the ransom. So that's an example of ransomware. And what's interesting and alarming for breaches, there was a 38% in breaches from 2021 to 2022. And unfortunately, I didn't have data yet for 22 to 2023, but there's going to be an expected increase on that. So you see, it's just increasing the amount of breaches. Now here's an example of one. In July 2022, Jarman, if I'm pronouncing that right, their navigation and fitness wearables company, they were hit with a ransom attack that virtually took all their customers offline. I mean, all their customers. So after 4 days, they paid a $10 million ransom to bring their service back online. Next example, which is really more kind of maybe a small business type of example, was Green Ford Sales. They're a car dealership in Kansas. They lost $23,000 when hackers broke into their network and swiped bank account information. What they did was they added fake employees to the company payroll, and in less than 24 hours, and then they paid them a total of $23,000 before the company was able to catch on. And another example here was with Wright Hotels. They're a real estate development firm. They had $1 million drained from their bank account after thieves gained access to a company email account. And all the information gleaned from the emails allowed the thieves to impersonate the owner and convince the bookkeeper to wire money to an account in China. Now here's where we're really most vulnerable. I'm going to go right to the slides. One of our leading vulnerabilities is weak passwords. Now, weak passwords can be found out or deciphered using just brute force attacks on our systems, automated tools that look for passwords, social engineering tactics like we just discussed, or using compromised passwords from other data breaches. Outdated software. It's important to update your software to make sure you got the most recent software on your PC, on your systems. What they do is they'll exploit known vulnerabilities in your old software versions to gain unauthorized access to your system. Now, here's one we don't think about, but again, it's very something we need to pay attention to is the physical security of your site and your workplace. Basically, this is physically gaining access to servers and equipment at your location. They could steal hardware. They could tamper with equipment to install malware or intercept data. Sometimes people will pose as employees or contractors to gain access to restricted areas. So just like I said earlier, someone could walk into your building and they can pose as a delivery guy, a contractor, or sometimes, they'll be kind of running behind someone and they'll ask them to hold the door, maybe because they don't have a key fob or a swipe. And they'll take something like this, like a thumb drive, and they can install that on one computer and infect your entire system. So, we talk a lot about the cybersecurity part about it, but physical security is important too, to protect everything in your physical hardware at your site. Now, this one here is more insider threats. These are actions taken, whether it's just negligence or direct malicious actions from employees within the organization. Employees and contractors have privileged access to systems, and they may intentionally or unintentionally compromise security. And like I said earlier, phishing and social engineering attacks, employees, vendors, and contractors may not be properly trained, and they may be getting tricked by people and grant access to sensitive and vital company information. And so a lot of it, when I say insider threats, I don't think a lot of it is intentional. It's us. It's us as employees. Sometimes we will unwittingly let people into our network, and let them get access to our system. So that's what we mean by insider threats. Now here's another one that we have to be aware of. This is third-party vendor risks, or like I call sometimes supply chain attacks. These are potential entry points for attackers to infiltrate your network. Could be maintenance, software solutions, cloud services, anyone you do business with. So in other words, anyone that has access to your network is a potential risk and an entry point into your network. So in other words, there's an example a couple of years ago where Target they did business with an air conditioning, an HVAC contracting firm. And what happened was a cyber criminal got access to this HVAC firm, got into their data, and then they got into the Target data because this HVAC firm, for whatever reason, had all this customer data from Target. And I think there's a couple of million people that were impacted. And so that's what I mean by anyone who has access to your network is a potential risk. And so it's important to make sure that their security is as good as yours. Now we talk about what can we do? What do we need to do? What are some of our best practices? And how do we educate and train our staff? One is really conduct regular security awareness training for your employees. And in a few slides, I'm going to give you all the name of a great company that can help you with cybersecurity training. But here we ask and educate your employees on how to identify and avoid common cyber threats, such as phishing, emails, malware, and social engineering attacks. Also implement what's called a zero trust architecture. A zero trust architecture assumes all network activity is malicious by default. So that should be your posture. Assume everything is a risk. Assume everything is malicious. And then you could kind of work from there. So that's what they mean by zero trust architecture. And this is something you're probably already doing. Many, if not all, cyber liability insurance policies require businesses to implement multi-factor authentication. That's basically using 2 or more forms of authentication to access sensitive data and systems. And this is great because this helps prevent unauthorized hacks into your network. So you're probably all familiar with that already. I mean, when you log into your bank or when you log into anything now, a lot of companies will actually send you a code or text you a code to enter in addition to entering in your normal credentials. We have that here at our company on all of our networks and systems. We have multi-factor authentication. And then you can keep in mind what I just said earlier. Many, if not all, cyber liability policies now require you to have multi-factor authentication, or MFA, as we call it. Regularly back up your data. Regularly backing up your data can help you quickly recover from a cyber attack or a system failure. Make sure your backups are stored securely and tested regularly to ensure they're functioning properly. So it's just back up your data regularly. Make sure you're keeping tabs on it. Make sure you have it stored in a safe place. In addition to backing up your data, making sure your software and systems are updated with the latest security patches. And again, typically you'll get a notice or a little note on your computer, something that pops up that says, install this update, install this new patch. And again, this is important. This is something that you can do, and this will help prevent or at least slow down cyber criminals that would exploit vulnerabilities. This is an important one too, and this may be hard for some folks, particularly in smaller companies, but you want to make sure you limit access to sensitive data, which basically means it's almost like a need to know. Only give access to certain information to people that need that to perform their job duties. For example, I'm in the I'm in the marketing department, and I don't have access to accounting data or really true financial data or anything like that. So I think we need to make an effort to do that, kind of limit access to sensitive data. That way, not everyone has access to everything. Because again, it's not because that those folks will do anything intentionally malicious, but if they have access to all your data and they get hacked, then your entire company's data could be at risk. Now, this is the part we'd like to talk a lot about is training and education. Cybersecurity training and education is an essential component for any cybersecurity program. You empower your staff to make informed decisions and take appropriate action. You can improve your overall security posture and reduce the risk of cyber incidences. Now, create a comprehensive training plan, and that covers basically the basic concepts, the threats that we just talked about, and best practices, what we just talked about. And the key is obviously to tailor to the specific needs of your company and the roles of your staff. Now, the key is with training is not just to do it one time, it's to provide regular and ongoing training. We recommend at least once a quarter that you conduct cybersecurity training. Use realistic scenarios, things that relate to your employees. And lastly, make it interactive, make it fun if you can. And then provide resources to them where they can go back to all the time, whether it's checklists, infographics, other reference materials. Also, encourage reporting of any suspicious activity. And also, basically creating a culture by emphasizing the importance of cybersecurity and recognizing staff who demonstrate good cybersecurity practices. And so that's the tough thing too. I think the goal is to not be punitive, is to be really recognizing staff who demonstrate good security practices and continue to create a culture around cybersecurity awareness. Now, here's the reasons why you want to train your staff. I'm just going to list kind of these bullet points. Is really you reduce the risk of human error, you enhance that security culture, you improve your incident response, you meet compliance requirements, and again, that goes back to the cyber liability policies. You protect your critical assets and you reduce the risk of successful attacks, and mostly you protect the reputation of your company. Here's one slide I like to show all the time. I've shared this before, that training works. We use a company called KnowBe4, and their website address is knowbe4.com. So it's KNOWBE4.com. And they have a host of free resources where you could take samples and demonstrations of their training that you can use for your employees. And so they're a great training company. So I would encourage you, if you're not using anyone else, check out KnowBe4, and they're a great resource. And again, they have a lot of cool free tools that you can try out and see if that would work for your organization. What this graph shows is that and KnowBe4 did this for all the companies that they work with, they basically established a baseline that before any training started, about 32% of employees clicked on a phishing type email or malicious link or something like that. So about a third of their organizations that they were doing training and testing for put their companies at risk. 3 months later, you can see with training that dropped to 17.6%, and then 12 months later it dropped to 5%. So training does work. You just have to make sure you do it regularly and continuously. Okay, and I can share this. This will be available in the deck. These are the couple of infographics we created. 4 major cybersecurity tips. This is something you could really share with your teams. Really, when you see something that looks suspicious, think before you click. Again, stay cautious of any unknown links you receive through emails while you're visiting web pages that aren't secure. Use strong and varied passwords. And the next slide I have is sort of a password tip chart. And again, you could print that out and share that with your team. So use strong and varied passwords. Use distinct passwords, or you can actually use a password management tool, which I'll talk about in a second. Make sure you're using firewalls and antiviruses, and that should come on almost every computer you have, firewalls and antivirus software. And the next, again, that we talked about before, is keeping your systems updated. And the older your system is, the more at risk it could be. So just make sure you update your systems. Now, again, here's some regarding passwords. Here's some what we call self-medicating password tips. Combine when you're creating a password, make sure you make it challenging. Combine letters, numbers, symbols, and phrases. They're less likely to be guessed by a hacker's automated programs if you have varying symbols and phrases. One thing we have here, we have what's called we use a password management tool. And basically it's like a password vault. They store your credentials and your usernames and passwords in a vault and let you know how if they're weak, how often they're reused, if they show up in a data breach. And so we use that, and that's kind of where all of our passwords are stored. That's where I store mine, in a password vault, a password management tool. Make sure, if you can, and I know this is hard, use a unique password for each account. If you do that, it makes it less likely that your information will be stolen or compromised if one of your accounts is hacked. And then obviously update your passwords regularly. Typically, we make you reminders on this, but it's important to update your passwords at a regular interval, and that reduces your risk of being hacked or exposing your data. Now, here's some resources available. Really, if you there's government resources like ftc.gov, that's the Federal Trade Commission. If you can report identity theft, the IC3, which is Internet Crime Complaint Center. They have a website there. And then there's another us-cert.gov, that's to report computer network vulnerabilities. And I know we may have some folks from Canada on the line, on the call. For Canada, we recommend cybercrime gets reported to your local police department first, as well as the Canadian Anti-Fraud Division, which is operated nationally by the RCMP, which I'm going to guess is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, but I'm not 100% sure. So forgive me if I got that wrong. So our final thoughts and key takeaways at the outset of this conversation we've had is it's not an if, but when you may be exposed to hackers or cyber criminals, or to phishing, social engineering attacks. The challenges and vulnerabilities are plentiful. You want to make sure you can address the vulnerabilities in your organization, and also basically educate and train regularly. And Kimber and Simone, everyone, hope I didn't go too fast. We're kind of at the end of the presentation. Are there any questions or anything that I could help or address?
No, thank you so much, Paul. So I'm going to ask if everyone wants to take off on mute if they have a question. This is your time to ask an expert in all cybersecurity about how your business cannot be hacked. So if you have any questions, I saw a comment a little bit earlier from Beth. She said that Century does great phishing email training. Their company just did it with them the past couple of weeks. So great. Glad to hear that, Beth. Anyone else have any questions, comments for Paul?
Yeah, I want to add that. I want to make sure everyone knows that too. Thank you, Beth, for sharing that. That know before site, we use that as part of our services and solutions that we offer. So we offer that as part of what we to our clients, cybersecurity training. But knowbefore.com, you can go to their site, and there's a lot of cool free resources that you can trial, you can test, you can use. So you don't necessarily have to come to me to learn about KnowBe4, although that's great, but definitely you go to knowbe4.com. They have a great setup for security training, a lot of cool videos, a lot of great free resources that you can leverage to see if you can use some of it for your organization.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions for Paul? Because if not, I definitely want to give you back your time. And Paul, do you have anything additional? Can you leave your contact information?
Yeah,
And
I'm gonna put on the next slide here, and this will be available in the when the deck is handed out. Here's my contact information, email address. Feel free to email me at any time if you have any questions. You can email me if you mention that you saw us on the webinar here. I'll send you a free cybersecurity checklist. It's sort of a list of things that you should be checking off and looking for when assessing your own cybersecurity. So I'll be more than happy to send that to you. And we also schedule a free consultation and come out and check you out at no charge to you.
I have a quick question about the winner of your Amazon gift card. How do you want to get that to her?
You know what? I know we're an IT company. We're old fashioned. We're new age, but I'd like to do it the old school way. And if it's okay, mail it to her. If that's okay. So if I can get a mailing address, I'll drop it in the mail and she'll get you in a couple of days.
all right, Pam, we have your email, so I'll facilitate that and give your information to Paul. So I have your email. I'll CC Kimber on it, and we'll get that ball rolling. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Pam.
All
Great
right.
information, Paul, and I can vouch too for Century Solutions Group. We get the test phishing attempts all the time, and they've trained us really well. So I'm happy to say that I usually spot them right away and send them over to CSG, and they're like, "Yep, good job. Thanks for staying alert." So it's a great service to have for your business.
Yeah, the tests are great too, because I remember my third day. I mean, my office is in Tyrone, Georgia, and like my second or third day, I got an email that claimed it was from the Tyrone, Georgia Police Department, and they said that I was speeding and click a link to see how much my ticket was and that I could pay. And I had to stop for a second because I was like, well, yeah, I was probably running late and I was probably speeding to get to work. But then I thought, hey, wait a minute, how do they know I was driving to Century Solutions Group and how do they know this or that? So definitely, yeah, you have to think before you really take an action on anything that you receive. But yeah, but that's part of the training that we get. So it's really cool training.
And then since you said that, Paul, I just want to add in a little plug for BBB because that is called a imposter scam. And that's when someone tries to pretend to be either a government official or just anything of authority. And they say, hey, you're going to listen to the police or you're going to listen to the government. So you want to do what they say to do, click a link or anything like that. Well, BBB has a tool called a scam tracker, which you can actually put in the person's contact information, whether that is a phone number, name, email, address, website, and see if someone else reported that, hey, this person tried to reach out to me. This is likely a scam. So don't ever, click on links that, you're unaware of from a person you don't know. Like Paul says, it's just small opportunities to get into your digital infrastructure. So just want to be very mindful and just plug in that little thing for BBB with the scam tracker. Well, I don't want to hold anyone because it's 2:40. Oh, wait, how do we get to the scam tracker? Excellent. The scam tracker is bbb.org/scam tracker, and I could put that also in the chat here. So yes, everything is on our homepage at bbb.org. But yeah, it's such a great tool to use for anything beyond cybersecurity. We see scams of every of every nature. So if you feel like you've been a victim of scam, just let us know. And we understand that, sometimes people feel a little bit embarrassed by it, but these are the times that we want to warn others, and maybe you can help someone else. So I definitely encourage you, go to bbb.org, go to Scam Tracker, and just, pencil around it on our website. We got a lot of resources for consumers and businesses.
I would just add, Simone, that last year we saved consumers $21 million in fraud prevention.
Thank you, Kimber. Yes.
Yes.
Well, if there's not any more questions, because I'm an avid believer, I don't need to hold you if, and we know that you guys are doing something, can be working on something else. So I really just want to thank you, Paul. Again,
You're welcome.
Like Kimber said, we will email this out to you guys, the slide deck. Pam, I will send another email to you just to get that, your contact information to Paul. And I hope you really learned